Hercules, the world's strongest man. Chapter 1. What have I done? Hercules was a strong, brave, and cheerful man, but today he sat with his head in his hands, sobbing. What have I done? He groaned. My wife and children are dead, and it's all my fault. The night before, Hercules had eaten a great feast, but he didn't know that the goddess Hera had poisoned his wine. The poison drove Hercules crazy. As he was eating, he thought he saw his family turn into wild animals, and so he killed them. Hera was the wife of Zeus, the king of the gods. Hercules was Zeus' son, and Zeus adored him, but Hera was not his mother. Hera hated Hercules. Hercules must live an unhappy life. Hercules desperately wanted to be a hero, but how could he, after what he'd done? He went to a temple to pray to his father, Zeus. Hercules, I am ashamed of you, bellowed Zeus, but I will forgive you, if you can prove your strength, courage, and determination. Go to King Eurystheus in Tyre. He will set you 10 tasks. You must complete them all. Eurystheus was a loyal servant of Hera. Hercules knew the tasks wouldn't be easy. Chapter 2. Wild Beasts. Your first task to kill the naming lion, said King Eurystheus, and bring back its skin as proof. Hercules picked up a bow and some arrows, a sword, and a wooden club. Then he set off for the town of Nemean to find the lion. When he arrived, the Nemeans laughed at him. You'll never kill the lion, they said. It has such a tall king that no weapon can pierce it. Sure enough, when Hercules fired an arrow at the lion, it bounced off. He hit it with his sword, but the blade bent, so he smashed the wooden club on its head. Bonk! The lion was stunned. Hercules quickly grabbed the lion's neck in his mighty arms. He squeezed tight until the lion was dead. But he couldn't cut off its skin with his sword. Instead, he used the lion's own sharp claws. Hercules tied the skin around his neck. The first task was complete. I can see that you're strong enough to kill a simple lion, said King Eurystheus. But can you kill the terrifying Hydra of Lernia? The Hydra was the creature with many long, snake-like heads. Each one spat poisonous venom. Hercules was feeling brave. He even asked his nephew Iolaus to come along and watch this task. Together they headed for Lernia and the cave where the Hydra lived. Hercules set fire to some branches just in front of the cave. Thick smoke billowed into the cave mouth. The Hydra poked a head out to see what was happening. Hercules was waiting. With one swipe of his sword, he slashed off the Hydra's head. This is easy, he said to Iolaus. But then something astonishing happened. Two new heads grew out of the wound in the Hydra's neck, and they spat dark venom at Hercules. "What can I do?" shouted Hercules, as he dodged the venom. "I'll never be able to kill the Hydra if it keeps growing new heads." Iolaus had an idea. He grabbed one of the burning branches. "Quick, uncle!" he called. "Cut off another head." As soon as the head came off, Iolaus set fire to the stump. No new heads could grow. Together, Hercules and Iolaus cut off and burned every one of the Hydra's heads. Before heading home, Hercules took out a few arrows and dipped them in the Hydra's venom. Poison arrows might come in handy one day. Chapter 3. Run, Hercules, run. "That last task doesn't count," shouted Eurystheus. "Iolaus helped you, and that's cheating." But secretly, Eurystheus was impressed. "You've proved that you are strong and brave, but are you quick enough to catch the Erymanthean boar?" The boar was a large, unfriendly creature that lived at the bottom of Mount Olympus. Hercules chased the boar all the way up the mountain, but he couldn't catch it. After a whole day, Hercules was exhausted, but he didn't give up. At last, the boar jumped to the very top of the mountain. It landed in a patch of snow and slipped. Hercules pounced the boar and quickly tied it up. He proudly dragged it back to Tyranus. "Take it away!" screamed King Eurystheus, jumping into a giant pot to hide. "Boars are foolish creatures anyway. Your next task will be much tougher. Catch the Carnian deer, the fastest animal on earth." Hercules chased the deer from one end of the world to the other, but he couldn't catch it. He tried shooting arrows at it, but the deer was so fast, it outran every arrow. Finally, after an entire year of running, the deer stopped for a drink. Hercules hid in a bush. Very quietly he fired an arrow. At last, the arrow stuck fast into the deer's back leg. Hercules pounced on it to tie it up, and carried the deer back to Tyranus. Hercules, the world's strongest man. Chapter 4. Dirty Work. "That task took you a whole year," laughed King Eurystheus. "For your next task, go and clean out the stables of King Augeas in a single day." "How hard can that be?" King Augeas was delighted to see Hercules. "My stables are the fiercest in the land," he said. "Are you really going to clean them up in a single day?" Hercules was very confident. "I bet you I can do it," he boasted. "If you manage it, I'll give you 100 of my cows," said Augeas. Inside the stables, piles of mucky manure towered high, and it smelled disgusting. But Hercules set to work with a shovel, smiling. After an hour, he stopped smiling. There was simply too much muck. Hercules rested on the shovel and looked through a window in the stables. Just outside, he saw a river. Hercules had an idea. Using the shovel, he knocked a big hole in the wall. Then he opened the doors. He began to dig a long ditch. By noon, it reached from the stables all the way to the river. Next, he found a massive boulder and dropped it into the river. The water hit the boulder and ran off to the ditch. Soon, great floods of water swept through the stables, washing out all the muck in an instant. Ulysses gasped in amazement. Once again, Hercules went back to Tyrant's encampment. A whole herd of cows came with him. For a change, Uriel was looking happy. "You may have cleaned the stables," he said, "but it's not right to get paid of doing a task, even in cows. That task doesn't count." Chapter 5. Dangerous Animals. Hercules was feeling stronger and more heroic with each task, but because 2 didn't count, he still had another 7 to do. Ulysses quickly started up 3 more tasks for Hercules. First, he had to shoot down a flock of deadly birds in the forest of Stymphlia. They tried to stretch Hercules with their feathers and claws, which were made of sharp bronze. Luckily, he was protected by the skin of the naming lion. Then he went to the island of Crete to tame a fire-breathing bull. Throwing a lasso, he snapped its neck and held on tight. Hercules leaped up into the air and landed with a thump on the bull's back. After that trick, he captured 5 fearsome man-eating mares, which belonged to the wicked King Diomedes. Diomedes tried to feed Hercules to his mares, but Hercules outwitted him. He trapped the king in his own stables. The hungry mares ate Diomedes and fell asleep. Hercules tied them up and dragged them to Tyrants. "These tasks are too easy." Hera had been watching Hercules complete his tasks. She was not at all happy, and spoke angrily to Ares. "Hercules must not finish all his tasks," said Hera. "I don't want him to become a hero." "But he's so brave and strong," replied Ulysses. "I can't think of any harder tasks to set him. As usual, it's all up to me." Said Hera. "He's hunted all sorts of animals and outwitted a man, but let's see how well he does against a new kind of enemy, a woman." Chapter 6. Hercules and the Woman. Eurydice summoned Hercules to his court. "For your 9th task, go to the island of the Amazons, where only women are allowed, and steal the belt worn by Hippolyta, their queen." Hercules set off for the island, watched by Hera. As he rode, he tried to think of a clever way to sneak onto the island, but he had no ideas. When he arrived, he found Queen Hippolyta herself, waiting for him on the shore. "Are you the famous Hercules who killed the lion and the hydra?" she asked. Most men are weak, but you must be strong. We want to hear all about your tasks. Come onto our island and eat dinner with us. He's very handsome. At dinner, Hercules soon charmed Hippolyta with his tales of bravery, strength, and cunning. She was so impressed that she gave him her belt to take home. This made one of the dinner guests furious. It was Hera, disguised as an Amazon warrior. Hera whispered into the ear of the woman next to her. See how close he is to our queen. He doesn't want her belt. He wants to kidnap her. Very quickly, the lies spread around the room. Hercules looked up from his food to see a crowd of angry faces. Hercules charged out of the room, fighting his way to the beach. He managed to jump back into his boat just in time.
Chapter 7 Far Off Lands. Hercules was exhausted. He had hoped to rest before his tense task began, but Erastus didn't want to wait. "Go to the island where the monster Junior lives," he said, "and bring me his cows." Wearily, Hercules got back into his boat. It was a blazing hot day, and Hercules shouted angrily at Helios, the god of the sun. He was so angry he took out an arrow and shot it at him. "Why are you making this task harder at me?" Helios caught the arrow. He felt sorry for Hercules. "Take my golden boat," he said. "It's strong enough to carry the sun, and it will help you cross the ocean." "Thank you." Even in Helios' boat, it took Hercules months to reach Charon's island. By the time he arrived, he was rested and ready to fight. His first attempt was George's two-headed dog. Hercules struck the beast with his wooden club, and the dog flew into the sea. With the same club, he knocked Charon's servant into the ground. Then a huge shadow flew over Hercules. He looked up and saw Charon for the first time. He couldn't believe his eyes. Charon had 3 ugly heads and 6 plugging arms on one body. It was as if 3 orcs had become one gigantic, hideous monster. Charon roared at Hercules with his 3 mouths and pointed 3 swords at him. Hercules ran away. As George chased after him, Hercules reached behind his back and pulled out a special arrow. It was one of the arrows he had dipped into the Hydrus Nemo. Hercules fired a single shot. He watched as the arrow pierced Charon through one neck, then another, then a third. The monster was dead. But the task wasn't over. Hercules arrived back in Tyrants with all Georgian's cows, only to find Hera waiting for him. She was disguised as a mosquito, and she stung the cows so hard they panicked and ran away. It took Hercules nearly a year to round them all up again. "I told you," said Erastus to Hera, "Hercules really is too strong and too determined." "You're right," said Hera, grandly, "but he still has to complete 2 more tasks. Let's give him some impossible to do. Send him to pick an apple from the tree of the Hesperids." Hercules didn't even know where to start. Hesperids were magical women who tended the garden of the gods. Only the god knew where the garden was. Hercules knew of just one person who had dared to share the secret of the god, a giant. named Prometheus. Long ago, Prometheus had told humans the secret of making fire. But Zeus had punished him by chaining him to a mountain and sending vultures to attack him. Hercules found Prometheus, shut the vultures, and cut off his chains, and the giant was happy to help. I don't know where the garden is, but my brother Atlas does, he said. Everyone knew Atlas. He lived at the top of the tallest mountain on earth, holding up the sky. Hercules made the long journey to find him. Oh, I know where the garden of the god is, said Antaeus. I can't tell you. I will make you a deal, said Hercules. If you go to the garden yourself and fetch me an apple, I will stay here and hold up the sky for you. Atlas agreed. He was desperate to stand up straight and stretch his aching muscles. Meanwhile, Hercules heaved and groaned under the weight of the sky. He couldn't believe how heavy it was, but he didn't dare drop it. At last, Atlas returned with an apple. Hercules, he said, you're doing such a good job, I think you should stay, just for a year or so. Of course, said Hercules, but the sky keeps slipping. Will you show me the best way to hold it? As soon as Atlas took hold of the sky, Hercules grabbed the apple and ran down the mountain. Chapter 8. The Final Task. Eurystheus was liberated. Not only was Hercules strong enough to hold up the sky, he was cunning enough to outwit Atlas. But even Hercules didn't go to the underworld and back. Could he? For the final task, Eurystheus sent Hercules down into Hades, the land of the dead. To prove he'd seen, he had to bring back Cerberus, a three-headed guard dog who kept the dead from leaving. First, Hercules had to cross the Mercury River Styx, but Charon, the ferryman, couldn't take him. I am Hercules, slayer of beasts and men, boasted Hercules. I go where I choose. Now take me across into Hades. Charon was so scared that he didn't go argue. No sooner had Hercules jumped out of the boat on the other side than a bulky figure appeared in front of him. It was Persephone, the queen of Hades. I've only come for her, said Hercules with a friendly grin. I won't stay. Stop! You do not belong here. If you can defeat Cerberus with your bare hands, I will let you borrow him. But you must let him go afterward, said Persephone. It was the fight of Hercules' life, but he won. Well done, Hercules, said King Eurystheus. You have proved that you are a mighty hero, the strongest, bravest man on earth. Now go out into the world. Lord Zeus, you are forgiven. A hero's life. Even when he was a tiny baby, Hera plotted to kill Hercules. She dropped a snake into his crib one night. Hercules strangled it with his bare hands. Before he began his 12 tasks, Hercules had already killed giants and sea monsters. It took him 10 years to complete all the tasks. Afterwards, he went on a long adventure with his friends Jason and the Argonauts. Legend says that when Hercules died, he became a god.